Hey guys, Squirrel here, and this is some more War Thunder. Only this time I'm actually playing online, unlike my previous video, my first look, which was purely about the tutorials. Now, I am in a Beaufighter, or a Bristol Beaufighter, otherwise known simply as the Bow. This is a World War II heavy fighter. It's got some pretty major damage cannons. It's got 4 cannons on the front of this thing. It is currently what you might call the most overpowered plane in the game. Well, that's what everybody says anyway. So I thought I'd take one for a spin. Of course I decorated it first. Put some nice menacing eyes on the front so that when people see the kill cam, they can look in awe at my awesomeness. It's a strange thing to fly this actually, but it's a very fast aircraft. It climbs really quickly. Turns a bit like a dog. It's a bit heavy on the turn. Don't get into a dogfight with this thing. You know, if you sort of end up with a Spitfire behind you, you're going to have some fun. Put it that way. You'll probably end in your death. But it can take a bit of a battering off a standard MG. A cannon will, of course, rip through its wing. But what I like to do with this thing is get high. As you can see, what I'm doing now is get high, and then come in for a dive run. Now, unfortunately this doesn't work out, but the first things I go for, in terms of target priority, I go for other Beaufighters. Because obviously I know what a Beaufighter is like, and I know that I can take one out. But if you're going to go head to head with a Beaufighter, for God's sake don't fly straight at it. What I'm trying to do is get above it, what they call, well, the thing is about dogfighting, it's all about energy management, so I have to make sure that I have more energy available, more potential energy as it happens, in other words more height, so that I can come diving down with great speed, and also because they don't see you if you come from above. Very rarely they will see you from above. You can see here, as I go into effectively a dogfight, look at the turn, it's so difficult, but once I'm behind him, because he's a Beaufighter, unlike a Spitfire he can't just turn and run away, just need to finish him off. And those cannons just rip through the Beaufighter, no problem at all. Immediately go into a climb, look at my radar, try and fly away from any of those red dots. And that's the key to with the Beaufighter really. It's more of a hit and run kind of plane. Get some height, take your targets, if you can get behind them, and try and hit them before they know what's going on, and you will tear through them so ridiculously. But once you're down low, you're pretty vulnerable. You can get into a dogfight scenario. I do okay in this game actually. Managed to bag myself a few kills. I'm making an absolute... I think this is the one where I'm making utter balls of it. So I'm coming in for the dive. I'm pointing for an intercept course. So I'm doing alright. Get behind him, but I'm struggling to turn. Very hard to land a hit now. Oh, I ripped him apart. That was that. Yeah, okay. So that was the one where I tore him up. But in a minute, you'll see a dogfight scenario where I do it totally wrong. That one I did okay. That came out all right. Yeah, a lot depends on what you're fighting against, and I think that's another key to War Thunder. You've got to learn the enemy aircraft. You've got to know what's your nemesis, what's their weaknesses, what's their strengths, and then you can pick your targets much more effectively. I mean, I'm looking at things now. I see PBY, Yak, and I have no experience with these aircraft, so I don't know if I should go, you know, should I go for that PBY, should I go for the Beaufighter on the left? I really don't know, and that is something that, I guess that's the learning curve of this game. Once you've got over the controls, that is what you've got to do. You've got to start to play the different nations, you've got to learn about the aircraft, know what their sort of climb speeds are, the top speeds, what altitude they perform best at, know what kind of guns they're likely to have on the front. I mean, this thing here, again, I don't know what a PBY is, but look how slowly that thing moves. He just can't get away. Just take his wing off. Again, I mean, that was slightly fortunate because knowing nothing about that aircraft, he could have been highly manoeuvrable for all I know. It was only when I got up close I realised how dreadful he was. Now this is an example of what not to do. This guy is going, you know, towards me, so he's gone underneath me, which gives me the worst possible. That would be okay in a Spitfire, because what I could have done with the Spitfire is flip 180 and got behind him. But a Beaufighter, that was just a dreadful move, and that's part of the learning curve of every aircraft you'll fly in. is knowing what it can do and what it can't do, and how to get the best out of it. And I took off in the Beaufighter, and for the first half a dozen matches, I couldn't understand why I couldn't kill anything, why I was getting taken down so quickly, and yet when I came up against another Beaufighter, or I fly around in anything, I'd see a Beaufighter and I'd just get torn up. And so people could seem to just kill me with it really effectively, but when I flew around in it, I couldn't kill anything. And that literally comes down to learning how to fly the damn plane. And it's the case with all of these planes, and for that reason I love this game. I think it's so cool and so interesting that each plane is completely different to fly. I mean, I know this is arcade mode, so the flight physics are just not even realistic. Once you get into the next step up, the historic battles, then the flight physics really kick in, and you seriously notice it. You can pull stunts in this thing in arcade mode that you just couldn't do in historic mode. But that aside, I love the fact that they all handle so very differently. And so when you come up against enemies, you've got to play to your strengths, and you've got to know what their weaknesses are. And at the moment, all I can do now is learn an aircraft and play to my strengths. The next step is learning their weakness. Now, I know in the tutorial, you saw me play. If you watched the tutorial, you saw me playing with a joystick, and I thought that was the way to go. And since then, I have played a lot of multiplayer, and I can tell you this. Here's my summary: play arcade mode with a mouse and keyboard. Don't even try and play with a joystick. The reason is that with a joystick, you can fly around really effectively, but the moment you come in to shoot something, it is pretty damn difficult, and anybody with a mouse is going to outdo you. And for that reason alone, just use the mouse in arcade mode. Your shooting will be so much more accurate. Given a mouse and keyboard versus a joystick in arcade mode, the mouse and keyboard should win every time. That's my personal finding. That's also what I've heard and read from other people, and I have found it to be true. And I've spent so many hours going through joystick configurations and tweaking settings and axis adjustments, just trying to find the sweet spot. And what I did notice though is when I got into historic mode and it played with the joystick then, or even realistic mode, the joystick really comes into its own. You could not do it with the mouse and keyboard. You couldn't handle the aircraft, and for that reason you need a joystick. And then at least you know that everybody else is using a joystick. So, well, if they're not, you're going to kill them anyway, because you just won't be able to turn as effectively and keep the aircraft under control, because you can get into flat spins and all kinds of things when you're playing in the more realistic levels. So that's my advice to you, particularly if you're just starting out in this game. Get into arcade and play it with mouse and keyboard. Now, this game is free to play, but it's not pay to win. You can pay for stuff, and I've signed up for a premium account, and that is basically allowing me to level up faster. That's not to say you can't level up free, you can. It's just that I can do it faster because I get bonus XP and that kind of thing. Why am I doing that? Well, because I want to level up fairly quickly so that I can bring videos for you guys to watch. So it makes sense for me. Whether it makes sense for you, it's entirely your decision. But know that if you're premium, and you can just buy premium for a day if you want to, or you can buy it for a few days, or you can buy packages which give you free planes and premium and eagles and all this kind of thing. There are many options. Go with the one that's right for you, I would say, or just play it for free and enjoy the game. That's what I'm doing. Now you can see I have now become vulnerable because I'm at low level. I've got, I think, a Spitfire on me. I've got a couple of aircraft, including a Spitfire, and I'm going to find it difficult to get away. My teammates are shooting the Spitfire, but unfortunately they're not very good. My best option, which is the option I go for, my destroyer's over there. I'm going to try and dive, get over there as quickly as I can, and hope that the anti-air on the destroyers can cause the Spitfire to pull away or knock off his aim. You see I'm full out with WEP, that's the wartime emergency power, but unfortunately, no, it doesn't work. The Spitfire gets me, but I've landed the Spitfire and the Buffalo, as it happens, right in the middle of my destroyers and my friendlies, so he's going to get ripped up now. Trying to decide what to do now, which plane to go for. I could go for the... I've got some bombing aircraft, but I decided it's too late in the game for that. I've got the Spitfire, but I decided to take out this little guy because he's got 6 rockets on him. And I figure that at the very least, if I come up against another Beaufighter, I can always rocket the Beaufighter. Or, if there are some ground units left, which I can see there's still a couple, then rockets can at least put some more damage in than my machine gun. This is the Hurricane. It's often mistaken for a Spitfire when people see it in the sky. If you look at the wing, it is very, very different to a Spitfire, but people just see it and go, oh, it's a Spitfire. It's not, it's a Hurricane. I actually really like the Hurricane. I love the Spitfire, but I really like this Hurricane as well. And I love the machine gun on this thing. It just seems to... do you know why the Spitfire was called the Spitfire? It was on account of the gun. And it was said that that the guns were so rapid that they literally spat fire, hence they call it the Spitfire. The Hurricane also does a similar thing. It literally spits fire, and the guns are mounted just behind... You can see them there. They're just behind the propellers. And it's quite interesting actually, as the propeller blades... Because obviously if you shoot machine guns through propeller blades, you know, if you don't do anything clever, you'll just rip your propeller blades off with the machine gun rounds. So what happens is, as the propeller blade spins around, it has like a cam on it, which clicks the machine gun. So as the pilot engages the trigger, the spinning propeller prop, the shaft that spins around when the propeller spins around, has a cam on it, which hits the machine gun and causes it to fire. And it's specifically geared so that the round is fired as there is a gap in between the propeller blades, so that the actual bullet passes through the gap, if you see what I mean. It's all very clever, but it was a problem that had to be solved initially. They had to come up with a clever design for it, and it's, you know, works fine. Just a minor bit of information there. So you can see I'm having some fun just machine gunning people down, hovering over B. I do think about coming in for a land at B, but it's so dangerous with all these aircraft up. It would be very difficult, make me very vulnerable. So I just decided to hang around and just try and pick off some targets. But I'm low down and I just don't know the Spitfire. I should probably go for that, but he sees me first. So what do? I try and bank around, see if I can get a shot on him, but I've already got a guy in my tail, and wow. I lost my right wing so quickly. To the guy in the Spitfire, Reeks. Now he's one of the... I think he's one of the top players on their team, so he's pretty good. So I think to myself, okay, I've only really got bombers and my Spitfire, so it's time to take my Spitfire out. Now you can see the shape of the wing of the Spitfire. It's like it's a much rounder shape, and it's always like a forward wing, so it's got a straight front edge and a curved back edge. That gave it a lot of manoeuvrability. But it is, you know, it's the classic aircraft, isn't it? I don't know if you've decided when you're playing which nation to go for. Yeah, you see Reeks there, he's quite top. I've shot down 5 aircraft, so I'm quite happy with that. But I don't know if you decided which nation you're going to play. I really like playing Britain, actually. I know I'm British, obviously, but I think their aircraft are interesting and quite powerful, and I recognise a lot of them anyway. The other nation that I've really enjoyed playing so far is Russia. They've got some really nice aircraft early on. I've no idea what they're like later on, but they are quite nice early on. And another reason I'm playing Britain, actually, and trying to level that up as my main nation, if you like, is because I really want to get to the Lancaster bomber, because that is... You know, when I was a kid, I used to make model aircraft and then hang them from my ceiling with little bits of cotton. And one of the ones I had is the Lancaster bomber, and so it's just an absolute classic, isn't it? So I really want to get in one of those things and fly it. So one day, I will bring you a video of me flying the Lancaster bomber, but I've got a long way to go until then. Also, I've been told that after about level 7, the aircraft get really expensive to repair. At the moment I'm kind of getting away with a lot of free repairs, because each plane you buy comes with a set of free repairs. This swordfish just won't die. I'm hitting the guy, I'm trying to avoid the collision. I don't get the kill. Look at that, 10 XP. All the rounds I put into him and I got 10 XP. But he went down eventually. What was I saying? Oh yes, I used to build model aircraft, didn't I? and I had quite a few on my ceiling as a kid. I remember having a Junkers Ju-8 night bomber. Of course, I had a Spitfire and a Lancaster, and a few other aircraft that I just can't remember. Yeah, I had quite a love of aircraft as a child. I actually thought I wanted to be a pilot. I was going to be a pilot, actually. That was my my career choice when I was still a teenager. It was either going to be a pilot or an architect. And I decided not to become a pilot because my 18th birthday, my mother bought me a one of those lessons where you fly off in a training Cessna, and the guy took off, and I'm not kidding you. I was always a motion sick child in a car. I was terrible, and this guy took us up in this Cessna, and he just killed the throttle and dropped this thing like a brick out the sky, sort of showing off and going, hey, and this is what you can do in the Cessna, which is probably the worst thing he could have ever done to me, because I was already a bit kind of, you know, frightened of the situation, trying to enjoy it, but like, oh shit, I'm in a plane, and not a very big one. And he just, I came off feeling so ill that I said to my mother, that's it, I'm not going to be a pilot now. So I have the aptitude of a pilot, the mental capacity to be a pilot, but I don't unfortunately have the inner ear and the lack of motion sickness that needs to go with it. So I'll have to content myself with flying things around in War Thunder, I'm afraid. This game is still in beta, and there are very good reasons for that, as I've found. The balancing issues, there are definitely balancing issues. There are matchmaking issues which are horrendous. When you start out with the biplanes, it's probably the best fun you're going to have for a while, because everybody's going around in biplanes and there's such terrific fun. You can have such great dogfights in biplanes. But afterwards, you know, once it gets to about level 2, it starts to put you in games with level 5, 6 aircraft, and you just get ripped to shreds. Hopefully they're going to fix that and give us a better matching system. But that's pretty much coming towards the end of this video. I really enjoy War Thunder. You should play it online. Go into arcade, go and play with the mouse and keyboard, and really enjoy yourselves. I thought we'd lose this game. That's why I called it Against All Odds. As you can see, we managed to get rid of all of their aircraft, cap both airfields, and eventually we win. It's great, because I really thought we'd lose that. But looking at the scoreboard, 6 aircraft and 2 deaths. Not a bad ratio, didn't finish top obviously, but I did as well as anybody else on the other team pretty much. And look at that XP with premium, 18,600. Anyway, that's all from me guys. I shall have more videos soon. Take care and see you soon.